Today on Eye on Northwest Politics, Oregon leaders on two sides of the political divide. First, a Democratic congresswoman calling for changes to the country's immigration enforcement after a man in her district was detained on his way to work. I talk with Representative Janelle Bynum about her concerns, President Trump's troop deployments to U.S. cities, and the impact of the weeks-long government shutdown on her district. And Oregon House Republicans have a new leader, Lucetta Elmer of McMinnville, tapped to lead the way. We'll talk about the transportation bill, her role in trying to address the state's housing shortage, and the way forward for the minority party in Salem. Eye on Northwest Politics starts now. Thanks for joining us. This is Eye on Northwest Politics. I'm Ken Boddy. Let's get right to your top political headlines. We're keeping an eye on the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. A three-judge panel is deciding if it's legal for President Trump to deploy the National Guard to Portland. As of this taping Friday morning, there has been no ruling. A temporary restraining order remains in place to pause the deployment by 2 more weeks. A new audit finds Portland Parks and Recreation has no stable funding plan for future maintenance needs. It shows 86% of park assets like playgrounds and restrooms are already in poor condition, and restoring them could cost between $550 million and $800 million. City auditors say the Parks Bureau lacks a clear plan to cut costs, raise revenue, or manage services. And Oregon SNAP recipients are now getting letters about losing benefits. The state's Department of Human Services says it's the first step in changes due to federal cuts. Among those who will see those changes, able-bodied adults without dependents who do not meet the new work requirements. Also on the list, some legal immigrants. Some changes will take effect November 1st, others will start in 2026. It seems like only yesterday that Democrat Congresswoman Janelle Bynum flipped Oregon's 5th congressional district in 2024, defeating now Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer. Recently, Bynum, an engineer and business owner, has been vocal about the immigration and customs enforcement raids in America, especially after one of her constituents, an American citizen, was apprehended and detained on his way to work. He was later released. Congresswoman Janelle Bynum here to talk about that case, the immigration crackdown in general, and the government shutdown. Congresswoman Bynum, thanks for coming back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
My pleasure.
Well, the case I just mentioned involves a 46-year-old man named Frank Miranda. He lives in Milwaukee, which is in your district, and was born in California. What do you know about his situation, and what concerns you most about it?
Well, it's clearly a case of body snatching, and the president tried that back here in 2020. I sued him on that, and we won. And we know that this is a form of terrorism. It's pitting Americans against Americans, and that is simply un-American. I feel really bad that Mr. Miranda experienced that, and we're going to continue standing up and fighting against this type of body snatching and terrorism in our communities.
In your statement at the time, you called for a fundamental change to this administration's approach to immigration. In your view, what would that look like?
Well, right now he's imposing a dragnet. Just anybody and everybody, whenever, ICE or Homeland Security wants to pick somebody up, they can. And it's without any sort of recourse. And that, again, is un-American. People have the right to understand what they're being charged with. They have a right to understand why they're even being stopped. They have a right not to say anything, to not self-incriminate. We have rights here, and those need to be respected, and we have to stand up for that. This administration has a clear guidebook, which is the Constitution, on how to act, and they need to follow it.
Bottom line, shouldn't illegal immigrants be deported? I know in Mr. Miranda's case, he's an American citizen, so it doesn't apply to him, but should not illegal immigrants be identified and deported?
Let's not take the bait here, Ken. This is an American citizen with every right to be on the street, to walk freely. And if we start mixing people up just based on the way that they look, we are really, really, really in a bad position. I think that's what the country is realizing. that this strategy that the president is employing is based on race. It's not based on any real characteristics of someone who might be a criminal or someone who might be here illegally. So let's not take the bait. Mr. Miranda was here freely as an American citizen and should not have been kidnapped.
How do you think this case is going to play out? As far as I know, he is suing because of this.
Well, our justice system is based on a system of your peers determining whether something happened or didn't happen or had a reasonable belief of happening. And I believe that he will be successful. People are not going to stand by idly and allow their country to descend into disarray. Right now, we're seeing a free fall, but we're also seeing people stand up. And that's what I'm most proud of here in Oregon and around the country. I think he'll be successful, but it also depends on what questions are asked. The most important thing is that we do not allow people to be kidnapped. That is fundamental to American values. You should be able to walk freely and move freely about the country as an American citizen who has done nothing wrong.
The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals still considering whether National Guard troops can be deployed here to Portland. That would overturn federal Judge Karen Emmergut's temporary restraining order against deployment. What do you think of President Trump potentially sending troops to American cities, including Portland?
Well, we didn't ask for it, and we didn't need it. And again, this is President Trump's attempt to not run us our money. He owes Oregon and he owes states money. He canceled our projects for 2025. He is holding up the budget. He is making sure that the money that we have requested and were granted for roads, for election systems, for water systems, poof, gone. So we have mayors and city councilors and county commissioners wondering how they're going to finish their projects. Instead, what he's doing is trying to create some sort of reason to deny us what we are rightfully due. This National Guard deployment is just a sideshow.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was in Portland recently at the ICE facility. Afterwards, she said our public officials were lying about the relatively calm conditions outside the ICE facility. They do have some problems there, but not to the point where many people think the National Guard should be brought in. How did those comments from Kristi Noem hit you?
I have a 15-year-old son, and the conversation I've been having with him is, son, dishonesty is a choice. And being honest is a choice. And if you're dishonest too much, it becomes a habit. And I think that's where Secretary Noem is. She was dishonest about what she saw. She was dishonest about the conditions on the ground. And from my thoughts, I'm trying to figure out, I need to invite my colleagues who have gone on the air and have professed that we're having 50 murders a night or we're having 50 of something a night, some bad things happening in Portland, which is simply not true. Portland is a major city. We have our issues, but we certainly don't have the characterization that Noem and her administration have. So I want to invite them to the old spaghetti factory down on the waterfront for an old spaghetti dinner so that they can walk through and they can see what the ICE facility looks like, because what they're projecting about Portland simply isn't true. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
We're going into the third week of the government shutdown now. Republicans blame the Democrats are blaming Republicans. Meanwhile, thousands of government workers are either getting laid off or aren't getting paid right now. How is the shutdown affecting your district?
So we had our 20th town hall just the other night. Over 13,000 people participated. And one thing that they told me was that at least 40% of them were being affected by this shutdown. Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, and they control the presidency. Speaker Johnson admitted with his own two lips that he didn't have a strategy. He has repeatedly not called for votes. He knows that we've only passed 3 spending bills and we need to pass 12. He knows he has not done the work. I stand ready to go back to D.C. to make sure that we are voting on the things that we're standing up for, which is health care for Americans, and anything short of that is a non-starter.
You asked that your congressional salary be withheld until the shutdown ends. Why'd you do that, and do you expect to get your money back at some time?
What's important here is that we stand with the American people. And as I told you, we've held town halls. We're standing up, we're writing letters, we're doing media interviews. We're trying to make sure, because what people ask me also on that town hall is, how do I know what to believe? And the most important thing right now is that you have elected officials that you can believe and trust. I stand with the residents of Congressional District 5, always have, always will, and I'll make sure that I continue fighting for them.
Really quickly, we've got about 30 seconds left, but I want to talk about the swearing in of Arizona Democrat Adelina Grijalva, whose vote in the House could be enough to force the release of the Epstein files. What's your opinion of Speaker Mike Johnson holding up swearing her in?
Mike Johnson told you he didn't have a strategy. And I believe that he's bowing to the demands and commands of President Trump, and he's not using the full authority of his office to do what is right. And one thing that I remember from my early freshman days is that my Republican colleagues said, we need a strong Democratic Party, just like we need anything else in this country. And I think it is important for us to stand up and call for her swearing in immediately. Speaker Johnson is shirking his duties, and that is un-American.
Congresswoman Janelle Bynum, thank you for coming back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
My pleasure.
Next, there's a new leader of the Republican caucus in Salem. Lucetta Elmer joins me next to talk about her new role as House Minority Leader, replacing Christine Drazen. We'll talk about filling those big shoes, the rocky special session on the transportation bill, and how the immigration crackdown is affecting her constituents in Yamhill County. Our conversation next on Eye on Northwest Politics. Oregon House Republicans have a new leader to replace Christine Drazen, who is looking to move to the Oregon Senate. Lucetta Elmer of McMinnville previously served as deputy leader of the House Republican caucus, which has 23 members. Republicans chose Elmer as House leader after Senator Daniel Bynum resigned and was later tapped by President Trump for a job in the Labor Department under Labor Secretary and former Congresswoman Lori Chavez-DeRemer of Happy Valley. The previous House Republican leader, Christine Drazen, then resigned her position, aiming for the appointment to Bynum's Senate seat. Well, those falling dominoes put Representative Lucetta Elmer into the leadership position. Elmer grew up in Yamhill County, is a graduate of Linfield University, and owns several businesses, including a boutique hotel and a coffee shop in McMinnville. Representative Elmer, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, let's start out with the transportation bill. You are among the Republicans who voted against the transportation bill, which ultimately passed in a long special session. But Governor Kotek still has not signed that bill that she lobbied so heavily for. Why do you think she hasn't signed it?
You are correct. She has not signed that bill. And while I haven't specifically asked her reasons why, everyone is aware that we are working on the referral process and trying to get enough signatures so that we can have all of Oregon weigh in on this very controversial subject. So we only have 90 days after the bill passes to collect the 78,000 plus signatures required to be able to refer this bill to the ballot next November. But we cannot start collecting those signatures until she signs the bill. Now, legally, she has 30 days to sign the bill, but, this is her bill. She called an emergency session, a special session to get this bill through. And I just have to wonder why she's delaying. If she's so confident that this is the correct path for Oregon, that we need this bill to pass and raise our taxes, then sign it and let's be on our way, even if that means that we're going to take a run at trying to collect enough signatures to put it on the ballot. Because again, if she's confident that this is the correct path, that shouldn't defer her agenda on this.
Okay, it's a $4.3 billion bill. It has a lot of tax increases, fee increases associated with it. Is that your main problem with the bill and why you're looking to maybe take it to the public instead of letting it go through the way it is now?
Well, I think Oregon has asked to be able to weigh in on it. I mean, this was completely controversial all through long session when we had House Bill 2025 that ultimately failed. And then bringing it back for special session, it was a hardline partisan vote with a lot of people weighing in on their opinion on this. So I think Oregon is asking for it. They want to make sure that their voice is heard, and they don't want this.
With Republicans in the minority, what kind of impact can you make as House Republican leader?
I think the biggest thing and the thing that I hold as the most important role is to elevate our voice. The minority voice is very valid. We represent so much of Oregon. If you look at, all of the rural parts of Oregon, which predominantly are Republican, we need to have our voice elevated. And that's the way that democracy works, right? The minority voice has such a significant place. But right now in Oregon, where we sit in a super minority in both the House and the Senate, and we have a Democrat governor and a Democrat Secretary of State and a Democrat Attorney General, we have to elevate our voice. So that is my number one job right now, to make sure that our perspective is heard.
That transportation bill that we just talked about, it really highlighted the partisan divide in Salem. Is there any hope for bipartisanship there?
I don't see that right now, no. I mean, we had solutions. I firmly believe it's not a revenue problem we're facing, it's a priority problem. But our ideas were not considered. There was no bipartisanship offered on the part of the Democrats. We offered several ideas and options, and none of those were ever given consideration. So it was a hard party line vote.
You represent Yamhill County in House District 24. It's rich in farmland, including Oregon wine country. How has the national crackdown on immigration affected Yamhill County and especially the workforce there?
I think overall, Oregon we've been in a workforce crisis for quite some time. I mean, we are a heavily regulated state. We are burdened with so much regulation. We are seeing businesses flee for several reasons. So, I think that this has been something that's been coming all along. And as vice chair of the Labor and Workplace Standards Committee, I've been fighting for a better healthy business climate in Oregon now for 3 years. And it is very frustrating when we see time and time again bills passed that are hurting businesses. And it's in that committee, they're usually party line votes as well. So it is a very frustrating position to be in. And we're seeing it throughout the whole entire state. But I think we've been seeing it for quite some time. And it has to do directly with legislation that's coming out of Salem.
Specifically, though, when we talk about immigration enforcement, we've heard reports of ICE agents arresting a man outside the Yamhill County Jail, at least 2 targeted arrests of vineyard workers in Newburgh. Are you in favor of the ICE actions in Oregon, especially in your county?
I have an understanding of what President Trump is trying to do. And I think the overall picture of what he's trying to do is something that has needed to be addressed for a very long time. And I know that that can get messy and it can be hard, to wait as the whole thing plays out. But I am understanding that, he is trying to make sure that we are a country that has people in here in the correct way and that we are a safe country. So we're trying to let the process play out.
Will you at least admit that it is having an effect in Yamhill County?
Personally, for me, I'm not seeing that, but I would have my head stuck in the sand if I didn't acknowledge that, yes, there are many conversations and people are weighing in heavily with their opinions on this. But like I said, as a state representative, it's something that we have our eye on, but we're watching and trying to see how this plays out and understanding the bigger goal that is at play here.
Now, I know you're in McMinnville, but I imagine you spend at least some time here in the Portland area. What do you think of the president's attempt to deploy National Guard troops to Portland?
Yeah, I was just up there yesterday. Again, I understand what he's trying to do there too. And I think more than anything, Oregonians and probably across the nation, but I know for sure here, what I hear time and time again is how Oregonians are so tired of the fighting, just the political rhetoric. And we have to, I live in Oregon, I get it, but we have to acknowledge that the president is trying to set a precedent and he is trying to establish peace and not have violence in our streets. I did shared some videos that we all have access to see about reporters that were being harassed, and one ended up with a black eye. And there's no place for that. So I think that we need to try to work together to understand that we all, I'm sure, have the same goal of we do not want to see violence in our streets.
Got less than 30 seconds here, but as we leave you, did you get any advice from Christine Drazen about taking on this role?
Yeah, Drazen is great, and I'm so fortunate that I was able to work with her for a year as her deputy. I appreciate the relationship that her and I have. I appreciate what she did in this last year as leader of the party, and so I will definitely be keeping her number in my favorites as I move forward.
Representative Lucetta Elmer, thank you for joining Eye on Northwest Politics, and good luck in your new role.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. If you want more Eye on Northwest Politics, check out our new streaming app, Coin Plus. You can find it every Sunday at 10 a.m. Coin Plus available on Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Thank you for joining us for Eye on Northwest Politics. We'll see you right back here this same time next week.